Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Jacob Lyle.
Well, we've lost the definitive voice of cinema, folks. A man who conveyed both power and warmth in his timbre. James Earl Jones, sadly, has reached the end of his story. So, it's time for us to go full circle by talking about the man's life and his career, as we are wont to do when we lose a legend or someone who meant a great deal to us. That's what we're here to do tonight.
Legend is kind of an understatement when it comes to James Earl Jones.
Well, true.
I mean, he was an icon of the entertainment industry, both
All right, a monolith.
on and off the screen.
There you go.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Dragon.
But yeah, so I think like a lot of us, the introduction was usually kind of our introduction to man. I think collectively, at least our generation, was most likely Mufasa. I mean, in terms of like the first time you hear the guy's voice, but between that and Darth Vader, obviously, I think for me, when I first saw the man himself, like the man behind the voice, it was Empire Dreams, the definitive Star Wars documentary. That was kind of the proper introduction to like the man behind Darth Vader, and it was kind of like that moment of kind of recognition of like, oh my god, you mean to tell me that guy is Mufasa and Darth Vader? That's incredible.
Yeah, Darth Vader it's like, Simba, I am your father.
Exactly. We're getting this guy to play everyone's dad.
Yep, I don't think many people complain though.
Well, of course not.
But so yeah, I can pretty much corroborate with that. My first introduction obviously was Mufasa. But obviously, as we've seen here, he's done a lot more than just Mufasa, many other iconic roles under his belt. So, obviously, Darth Vader being among them, but quite a varied career that he's had. So, I mean, unfortunately, I have never actually seen Empire of Dreams.
But really, still?
Yes, still.
Oh. Well, it's good.
I know.
Anyway. So, yeah, so folks, basically the way this is going to work, I mean, by all means, chime in and let us know, any things you'd like us to say or any kind of anecdotes or anything you'd want to say on the man himself. But, until that happens, we're just going to go through the man's life and reflect and kind of weigh in on kind of our thoughts and feelings on the many roles he's brought to life and just kind of the man's journey. How a man becomes a great, so to speak.
A legend.
Well, yes, a legend, a monolith, just like like the guy, however you want to label it. So the origin story of James Earl Jones is quite interesting. He had a tough upbringing. From what I understand, from kind of a cursory look at this. I knew most of this from Empire of Dreams, but and some other stuff, but not this part of it. The fact that apparently his father, he was working, at the time he was this is like roughly, probably James Earl Jones was born in 31, so this is probably like we're talking like the like kind of like the stock market crash kind of times,
Oh yeah.
So his father was his parents were very much kind of working African Americans, which did not present a lot of opportunities, and basically was like working on many jobs. Essentially, his father was, if I understand right, he was a boxer, which kind of gave him a little taste of the limelight. He was a driver and he did other occupations as well. And his father essentially left right after James Earl Jones was born, and the word is like he kind of went to strike it big in Hollywood. And it doesn't sound like it turned out well for him, but yeah. So he wasn't around when he grew up.
Yeah, Earl Jones.
Yep.
It's kind of funny that he was interesting that he was a driver, or that his dad was a driver, because later on in James Earl Jones's Broadway career, he played character in The Driver and Driving Miss Daisy.
more interestingly, and in connection to that, Jacob, you're not wrong. That's a big one. Other thing is the first role, like the big breakout role for him, like one of the first roles on stage, and then eventually, kind of like he filmed the adaptation of it, was a Great White Hope. He played Jack Jefferson, who was a boxer, famous
Huh.
boxer.
Huh.
So that to me was the more kind of prolific in terms of like kind of like him kind of portraying his father to an extent.
Huh. Pretty interesting.
So yeah, so I mean that part I did not know, but I think collectively, what I kind of like I've kind of gleaned over the years. But he was a shy kid growing up because he had a stutter, and that he was basically he was raised by his grandparents in Mississippi. He was mute. He was selectively mute for 8 years. From school to until high school, he was mute until high school because he was that self conscious about the stutter.
I've heard about this story. I mean, the funny thing is Samuel L. Jackson kind of had a similar story to it.
Oh, so what's unique, what's so interesting and kind of prolific and poetic about this, I should say, is that so he's mute for about 8 years. He goes to high school, and he eventually poetry essentially gets him out of it. Poetry kind of like instills confidence in him. Basically, there was a very helpful teacher that basically kind of encouraged him to try reading some poetry in class. So you just see how it goes. And he did that, and I would like to think that was kind of the lightning rod there. That was like, okay, kind of like get a feel for kind of the written word, which kind of go from poetry to the stage, and then we kind of go from there. So it's so poetic that one of the most iconic voices of all time started mute.
It is kind of funny how things turn out.
Yeah.
But I mean, think about it. The guy who was mute have like one of the most iconic deep voices in all of cinema.
It's incredible.
Oh yeah.
You can't make that stuff up, kids.
Nope. But James Earl Jones, he lived it.
Yes. So I'm just going to shout out some comments here. Little Blue's got a yarn to tell us once we get it. Then we have Slasher Fred. One of the classic movies that James Earl Jones was in was Stanley Kubrick's Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb.
Yep. As you can see, that's represented in the upper right-hand corner.
Yes, we're going to get to that in one hot second here. Just so again, he does. James Earl Jones had a love affair with the theater. He did a whole bunch of plays, which, of course, over the years have been kind of made into films, and half the time, he's been recast in those films to play those characters, basically play the role of the stage on film. Like Great White Hope being an example.
And he's also an EGOT too.
Yes, he's got them all.
He's one of the rare people to get an EGOT.
Yep. So he's done the plays such as Fences and most memorably Driving Miss Daisy.
And that was fairly recent though, like within in the last decade or so, right?
Well, here's the thing. I could have sworn I know he did in the last decade. I don't know if that was like a returning performance or not. It sounds like he might have performed it very much early in his start, and then it kind of clung. That I'm unsure about. That
I mean, obviously the movie was Morgan Freeman.
Well, yeah, the movie was Morgan Freeman. I'm saying the play existed before the movie, so I want to say he's performed it, and then with his notoriety, I could be wrong here. I want to say it was him and maybe Angela Lansbury playing it on the stage in recent years before both of their passings.
It is kind of a shame.
Yeah. And again, James Earl Jones did some early TV work. I want to say, kind of bridging into the '60s before he gets the big film gigs. So he's paying the bills and stuff, and to do so, he actually kind of apparently holds a very unique title. He was the first recurring black actor on a soap opera.
That's a good one.
Oh yeah.
What was the soap opera?
Well, let's see. I have low tolerance for soap operas, so I don't really know. It's just a soap opera, so it doesn't really,
Well, but obviously,
that's just me, though. I mean, I'm sure there's someone out there like soap operas. I mean, there's the only one I can think of is there's General Hospital and there's Days of Our Lives, and that's about it.
As the World Turns.
They all have very generic titles. Okay, I can't. It's Hallmark without the coziness.
All right then. But obviously that all led him to his very first film role.
Yes, Doctor Strangelove, or the extended title, which we're not going to repeat, or else we're going to be here all day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Doctor Strangelove, of course, by the wonderful Stanley Kubrick. He played Lieutenant Zog in that, which it's so James Earl Jones, in bridging between his days in the theater and the acting world, he was on the path to become a doctor. He has like a degree in medicine, and he was recruited into the war, Korean War. Like he enlisted in like the reserves, and I believe they kind of bridged him into participating in the Korean War, mostly as like I think it was as a medic, but also I think primarily it was kind of like the kind of like what you had in the other wars. You had like he was very much like doing like the theater, like entertaining the troops kind of stuff. So you know,
Apparently, Little Blue's telling a story. If you want to share it now.
okay,
All right. When Dad was in college, James Earl Jones came in with something to do with Shakespeare. Everyone was told not to mention Star Wars to James because it was a false rumor that he didn't like Star Wars. So when it came to my dad and the students meeting James, he proceeded with Shakespeare, and someone in the class stupidly mentioned James about Star Wars, and everyone cringed. Was like, "Oh no!"
no.
But luckily, James is more than happy to talk about Star Wars. Well, there you go.
All right.
I mean, yeah, your dad got to meet James Earl Jones. Pretty awesome.
Well, yeah.
Unfortunately, I never was able to meet him.
Met Chewbacca, but not James Earl Jones.
Peter Mayhew.
Well, I know it's Peter Mayhew. I was gonna say like I got to meet Chewbacca, but not Darth Vader, and then I kind of swapped that one. But yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
Because there's also Eunice Sutiano, or what I know I'm butchering his name.
who?
The guy who played him in the new trilogy, Chewbacca.
Oh, yeah.
I said because there's also him, but unfortunately, I haven't met either him or Peter Mayhew.
Anyway, so Doctor Strangelove. So again, it's kind of like life imitating art to an extent. He's kind of playing a military role in kind of the dramatically satirical sense.
Oh yeah.
So again, it's kind of a beginning. If you look at Lieutenant Zog, not a lot going on there. Just it's like he's trying to like open the bomb doors. It's not turning out well. He's a young man with a deep booming voice. That's about it.
Yeah, he's not the one who rides the bomb.
Nope.
That's Slim Pickens.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So eventually, again, that's like in '65. So again, he keeps going on about like the big thing that he did was Great White Hope did get an Oscar nomination. So when he did the play, and then the play got made into a movie, which he got the nomination for him. He didn't win, but James Earl Jones' name was getting out there, and he was kind of a slowly but surely rising star in the industry, and that led to Star Wars.
Yep. Which he recorded in just a couple hours.
Yeah, so the way the story goes in Empire Dreams is that George Lucas approached James Earl Jones and essentially described to him. I forget how direct Lucas was about this, or was just James Earl Jones just kind of like basically saying what George Lucas was intending, and that he was thinking Orson Welles, but he was afraid Orson Welles was too recognizable. So that was the original kind of intent for like the initial voice pictured for Vader, but they wanted something a little bit more kind of like practical and a little more original, I guess. So, I guess, George Lucas seen, I want to say, my assumption is that George Lucas saw Doctor Strangelove and that's where he got the idea. That's my guess, but I don't know.
And it's a shame because in the original credits, in the original versions, James Earl Jones wasn't even credited for the voice.
Yeah, they went back and they fixed it, thank goodness.
I mean, it wasn't properly credited as. I mean, it was probably public knowledge, but
well, to be fair, they didn't really know like they were going to have other movies. Like, well, George Lucas had hoped there were going to be other movies, but it all depended on the success of the original Star Wars. So
and it was probably, but he was not credited in the original movies until Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
but like I said, it was probably most likely public knowledge at the point. Like, hey, that's James Earl Jones. So yeah.
All right, basically we're going to talk about all the Star Wars stuff here, at least with the original trilogy. So, A New Hope.
Obviously, we talk about his iconic role in Exorcist II, the Heretic.
Yeah, of course.
Which technically came out around the time he was doing like doing Empire. It's either Empire or Return of the Jedi. But I'm just kidding. We're not talking about that right now.
So, like I said, he was kind of hired as kind of like it's also kind of another kind of karmic thing here, where a big thing that James Earl Jones did was he did like yet another play of Othello, and Orson Welles' big splash onto the scene was Othello. So taking Orson's job. So I love the voice. I think we all love the voice of Vader paired with David Prowse's imposing size and visage with Vader. It's a marriage made in heaven.
I mean, it's an iconic performance, match made in heaven, or it's a match made in heaven. And although also the scuba breathing helped too.
Yeah.
Definitely
Ben Burtt's the third in that equation, but yes.
It's like those are like the three people that brought Darth Vader to life.
Yeah. So in A New Hope, the Vader that we get, I like that if you look at it this way, the original trilogy, we have three different stages of Vader, and James Earl Jones kind of plays the role differently in all three, and he brings something really interesting to the role each time. So Star Wars, with A New Hope, it sets the tone. It's an iconic visual with the really it's with that voice, and even if he's not a huge part of the film, again there's a lot of it's mostly build up, and he's got cool lines, and again things that can go down in history, and he kills Obi-Wan. He's not to be messed with. And thank goodness we don't kill him off at the end. We very well could have. Han Solo, if he just if he blasted him.
Yep. Yeah, Tarkin was the main bad guy in that one.
Yeah. So again, we set the tone. Okay, here is Darth Vader. Isn't he cool? We're gonna buy the action figure, and we're gonna get a sequel.
It's like, but I might as well mention some of this slasher Fred stuff. He was in the Sandlot. Yeah, we know we're trying to go as chronological as possible.
Right now, we're talking all the Star Wars stuff. We're gonna get the Sandlot very soon.
And when it was called when it's called just Star Wars: A New Hope was added later. Yeah, Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah.
All right, so Empire. Empire, this is where I think we see the subtlety and nuance on Vader. This is where, James Earl Jones, you really get the sense he's, the way the story goes, he's really a fan of the material, which is what, Little Blue is kind of going on about too. Or he does like Star Wars.
It's like, I like Star Wars too.
I like Star Wars too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he's the way the story goes, he was reading the script, or Lucas was telling him during the record, and he basically says, "Well, he's lying, right? How are they going to play this out?" He's the fact that he's like a fan reading the material, like, "Oh, this is such a twist. He's got to be lying, right?"
Yeah, he wasn't.
Nope. So again, factor.
All right, go on.
So he's got to factor that into the material too, in his performance there. That we play that whole movie that Vader knows the Emperor's got designs. He's kind of hinting that the Emperor's got designs on Luke, and that Vader's gonna make the offer to him, and Vader's trying to kind of supplant the Emperor by like, hey, you and I can team up against the Emperor if we let's try it. So leads to the most iconic movie scene of all time that he could dine out on for years if he wanted to, which is, Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. He told me you killed him. No, I am your father.
Search your feelings.
You know
it to be true.
No.
And of course, famously, David Prowse didn't know that was going to be the line.
Oh, of course not. He thinks it's Obi-Wan killed your father.
Yep. I mean, the only ones that knew really were James and James and Mark Hamill.
And George Lucas.
Obviously, George Lucas,
Also, I guess Irving Kershner. Technically, 4 people knew.
and probably Lawrence Kasdan as well.
Uh yet I'm gonna say yes. There's a slim chance that could have. There's a slim chance Lucas could have kind of withheld that, but I'm gonna say it's probably Kazdan. Probably Kazdan knew, so it's 5. So let's just say it's 5 people knew in the whole world.
And it's debatable how much Lee Brackett knew.
Okay.
And apparently, Little Blue asked, "Does anyone know that James once worked with Tim Burton?" I wasn't aware of that.
Anyway,
All right.
so point being, Empire Strikes Back usually a benchmark in the whole of Star Wars, and James Earl Jones was very responsible for that with that big scene and with Vader kind of like at his peak, one could say, like Vader during that whole fight, and his Vader kind of being not only menacing but having like this big kind of truth bomb in his arsenal that utterly decimates Luke by the end. So like Vader, he wins again. Essentially, as much as we love Darth Vader, if you look at A New Hope, he kind of gets taken. I guess the layman might say he gets taken out like a punk at the end. It's like what? Spiraling TIE fighter.
Yeah, but he chooses to escape probably because he knows it's going to happen.
Oh come on, he didn't choose to escape. He got blasted. He lucked out and escaped.
I know, but he probably still knew it was going to happen after that point anyway.
Well, yeah, he was smart enough not to go back.
Yeah, he wasn't stubborn like Tarkin was.
Well, Tarkin was cocky.
Yeah, cocky, stubborn.
It's like, they don't have a chance. He turned off his targeting computer. What could happen?
Oh yeah.
All right, so
I'll tell you what could happen.
mm-hmm.
It blew up. It blew up. The maniacs
wasn't even fully paid off yet.
It's like I still had insurance on it.
All right. So the one I really want to talk about, the one no one ever does, I want to talk about Return of the Jedi.
I mean, no, great. His performance in that is great too.
That's a thing, though. Always gets lost to Empire, though.
To be fair, for good reason.
I mean, look, seeing where Star Wars ultimately went, Jedi, looks a lot better by comparison. With just the core 3 films, though, yes, it's third on the totem pole with those 3 films, and I can't blame it because a lot of people, the Ewoks are deal breakers for a lot of people. I get it. That said, though, the crux of that film, the Luke Vader conflict of that film, is the high point. It's a really good story that we have there with our Emperor payoff and everything. So it's an underrated Vader performance. It's the most complex and conflicted Vader is. It's the big example I want to make is that the surrender and kind of elevator scene in Return of the Jedi, where Luke surrenders himself as kind of a ploy to get to the Emperor and also convince his father to kind of turn to the light side. It's a great scene. There's gravitas. He had all the gravitas in Empire, and he only really has one scene with Luke. Vader has one scene with Luke, and we have to convey a lot here. We have to really set up Vader's, the conflict within Vader and his feelings towards Luke, and just the fact that there's just Luke has to kind of get in there just to suggest that he might side against the Emperor at the end. There needs to be that's a hugely pivotal scene in that film. If that scene doesn't happen, if James Earl Jones doesn't really bring in the performance, it's going to feel like, okay, we just kind of lucked out that Vader had a change of heart.
And of course, I'm a Jedi, like my father before me.
Yeah, I love the defeated kind of no hope mentality with Vader here of like, well, yeah, I fell prey to the Emperor. You're gonna fall prey to the Emperor. You already rebuffed like our team up plan here, so this is just what it is now. He's gonna turn you to the dark side. I love like the little nuances of like the pride that Luke built his own lightsaber. Is the fact that your training is complete. And
Oh yeah,
also just the retroactive sorrow that's in there. Of course, knowing where we fill in with the Anakin Skywalker story to a degree, you look back on it, there's a lot of sorrow in the performance of the cycle repeating itself. Which, I mean, the bare bones might be there, just like knowing just the bare minimum of, okay, Anakin Skywalker was a Jedi, and the Emperor turned to the dark side, and he's seeing that happen to his son. Even if we don't factor in everything that comes with the prequels, that's still that those themes still play. And the line that gets me in that movie with his performance is, "It's too late for me, son." Because he's trying not to call Luke son during that whole scene. He's trying to be a little distant to him, like you see when Luke calls him father. He kind of like it kind of gets him because it's the first time he's acknowledging and accepting the truth. And I think on some level Vader won't admit it, but that really he does want to reconnect with his son, and he'll take like him turning to the dark side as a way of doing that. If it because again he wanted that life with Padme, he wanted that fatherhood, he wanted all that, but it
yeah,
was kind of like went belly up.
yeah,
So also the death scene too. Like think about this. It's the last moments of Vader accepting his fate and just not wanting to be a monster in his last moments. Just the whole like, let me look on you with my own eyes. Like that's the last thing that James Earl Jones says is that character. That's it's very important.
chronologically anyway.
Well, yeah, the last thing that he says chronologically before the character dies.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because obviously he reprised his role in
yeah.
numerous, like obviously in Rogue One and all that.
My point being, Jedi has some top tier Vader stuff that gets a little lost by the wayside because we all love we all love Cloud City. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
All right. All right, so I guess the kind of yeah, let's jump around a little because it sounds like people really want us to talk about the Sandlot.
I guess we can.
What, you want us
I,
to make them wait?
I mean, no,
Okay.
he's the man who tamed the beast.
Yes.
I mean, what else can you say about him? He tamed the beast.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, he was like he was great. He was. I've only keep in mind I've only seen the Sandlot like once or twice, but everyone remembers James Earl Jones in that movie.
Yeah, he was. I watched the clip of the Sandlot where he's this sweet old blind man, Mr. Myrtle,
Yeah, it's like
who adores the game he can no longer play.
I mean, he's like one of the linchpins of the themes of the movie.
Yeah, it's not about winning or losing or getting all the glory. It's about just kind of an appreciation for the game, which and that's another thing too. So James Earl Jones forever until the end of time, touchstone of baseball with not only Field of Dreams but also the Sandlot. Like him as Terrence Mann and in Field of Dreams, just the idea that he has like the monologue to end all monologues about about the love and like the passion for the game. I think one of the great lines in that monologue in Field of Dreams was America's a blackboard being erased like more and more each day. Baseball is the constant. I'm paraphrasing, mind you, but that's a simple blackboard line. It's like that is so good. Just the idea that it's so relevant today. We keep sanding away at all like keep sanding away the history, but you know, baseball's always going to be around because it's that ingrained in the nation. It's like the one constant.
Oh yeah,
It just kind of speaks to James Earl Jones as well, him being kind of like the symbol of Americana and pretty much with the EGOT of it all. He's pretty much in every field and every iteration known to man. He's made an impact. He's there. It's on the stage, on the screen, on the small screen, essentially with baseball, with CNN, with the news coverage.
and as Slasher Fred points out, that if you build it, they will come. It's a
Yep.
very iconic line.
Mm.
He's had quite a bit of those throughout his career.
Again, very much kind of like as we kind of get into with the Lion King, which we'll get there eventually, kids. We're gonna build up to it. Very much kind of voice of God kind of thing. There's always an ethereal thing with James Earl Jones, which I think is assisted by the timbre of his voice.
And he never actually played God.
Nope.
That
I mean, he
goes
could
to
have.
Yeah, I mean, the only two I know that actually did is Charlton Heston and Val Kilmer. didn't
Oh,
Val
and
Kilmer
also,
didn't Val Kilmer play God in Prince of Egypt?
well, yeah. Well, to be fair, that was just like every when people hear God, they hear themselves as the idea in Prince of Egypt. He's the only one
Oh,
who's hearing God by proxy. Val Kilmer is the voice of God. I think what you're looking for is also Morgan Freeman.
well, Morgan Freeman too, yeah, but that one's kind of a given.
Yep.
Eh,
All right,
I mean,
anyway,
I mean that's more of a biography than anything else, Dragon.
well, yeah. Also, Whoopi Goldberg.
well, that too.
She's the Muppet God.
oh God. And what
Oh,
about not to mention the guy who played God in Oh God.
yep. Oh, Whoopi.
The movie called Oh God.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but yeah. So yeah. That's one thing that James Earl Jones never did.
All right. So let's I want those.
Apparently Charlton Heston played Moses in Ten Commandments. He did, but I could have sworn that it was him, but maybe it was George Burns that played God. Anyway, as you were saying.
Yeah. So the '80s. We had James Earl Jones in Conan the Barbarian.
It's like, oh yeah. Which also was an iconic role for Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Of course, tail end of the '80s, we had Field of Dreams in '89, which was that was a hugely iconic one for him. That was like the one before we get Lion King. It's like how much more iconic could the man get with you build it, they will come.
Coming to America.
Well, yes, so that's the other thing too. I want to talk about Coming to America. I love Coming to America, and I love King Jaffe in Coming to America. There's a regalness and legitimacy that he brings to the role. The whole father son, kind of like conflict, this arc of like the tradition versus like the humbleness of the son. And one of the scenes of Coming to America is when Prince Akeem's parents, the king and queen, of Zamunda, they come to Queens, and they go to the McDowell house, and they're looking for their son, and basically they inquire about Lisa and everything. Essentially, King Jaffe's kind of a jerk to Lisa. He's looking down at everyone, being all snooty and all royal, and McDowell wonderfully, he just he lets him have it. He says like, "Hey, I don't care how royal you are. You talk about my daughter like that in that disrespectful way. I'm gonna break my foot up, my foot off." And yeah, so it's again, it's just this is a great moment of like it's not just James Earl Jones. Like we're so used to him being kind of like the guy in control and the guy with the power, kind of like the wizened kind of guy. Just seeing this sort of like a humbled. It's kind of like a God bleeds kind of moment, you could say. Just seeing
Yeah.
like the king humbled as he needs to be for the story to work. And it was just seeing him kind of play that. And just it's all about playing the flaws in a scene. I think James Earl Jones played that moment so well.
What are your thoughts on Coming to America?
So that's interesting. Coming to America,
Which is a confusing title, by the way.
yeah, I'm aware. You kind of visual helps on that one, but coming to the number two America, the sequel. He is great in that. Mind you, that movie it's a little iffy. It has good moments in it. It's not terrible. It's just like it's an inferior sequel.
Yeah.
However, interestingly, this really hits hard after his passing. So this is the last movie that he did, and it's kind of a haunting send off because the idea is King Jaffe is dying because we need Prince Hakeem to become the king. And he basically in his last moments there, he says, with kind of a gleam in his eye and a smile, he wants a living funeral. So we have this, so we have James Earl Jones, and it was not a serious discussion, but I joked that if we needed in poor taste, if we needed an image for the in memoriam, it's basically James Earl Jones. He's alive, but James Earl Jones, he's standing in a casket, like as everyone's doing the funeral around him.
Oh no.
But it's just it's kind of this absurd but also kind of sweet idea that it's having the living funeral where you want to see everyone kind of like have this testimonial to you and you want to enjoy life while you can, and basically he expires by the end of the scene, but it's the idea that it's kind of going out on your own terms kind of thing. He went out like a king.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing. James Earl Jones is a man. He enjoyed life. So I mean, if this is like the last scene we ever got of James Earl Jones, which if you just look at the films, I mean, it kind of is. That's a pretty good send off for him, I think.
And speaking of King,
So very Nostradamus like.
yeah.
He's wearing the garb of a lion. Of a lion is like kind of like a throw in Coming to America, the original. So
Oh yeah.
it was, and this is in like the late '80s, I believe. I forget if it was '88 or '84, but it was like in the '80s.
Yeah.
So about a few years later, we get the Lion
Mufasa.
King.
We get Mufasa. And can you imagine like how many years later I was like that the fact that they got Mufasa and Madge Sinclair to voice Simba's parents was basically a reference to Coming to America. Like, you know how long it took me to realize that? I mean, I'm like you sneaky little. But seriously, yeah. I mean, that's how many people will name as like one of his like more like if he's like known for like two or three iconic roles, like they would definitely mention Mufasa as one of them.
Oh, without question.
I mean, let's just face it, like in that he has like all the warmth and all this stuff and wise and king as you mentioned earlier, but there are times when he also does show like his ferocious and scary side in that role too. Especially when he's protecting Simba from the hyenas.
So yeah, the definitive role with Vader. He's America's father. Both the light side and the dark side of it.
Pretty much. Like, funny thing is, like, both movies involve like you never go over there, Simba. Like, light and dark. Right? Because there's like a dark side in the Lion King too.
Well, yeah, it's the fact that Vader's all about the dark side, and he's all about like everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Never go to that dark place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are lightsabers there, Simba. So
All right, go on.
so the circle of life scene. Just this acknowledgement of mortality, and it was such a beautifully delivered scene about basically James Earl Jones explaining the concept of death to children, and it worked.
It's like everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. As king, it's our job to understand that balance, from the crawling ant to the leaping antelope.
Wait, don't we eat the antelope? Yes, Simba.
But let me explain. You see, when we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass. And so we are all connected in the great circle of life.
And great scene, wonderful scene. He's got the wisdom. He's got the father. I love the fatherly playfulness when Simba's like waking him up in the morning and everything.
Before sunrise, he's your son.
Delightful.
And as I've understood from parents, like it's relatable.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of parents relate to that scene.
Then, of course, like you said, we have he's standing firm. He's defending his son ardently, and he's yelling at Simba, but not in like an abusive way. He's yelling at him like, "You almost got killed. This is not good.
You deliberately disobeyed me. What's worse, you put Nala in danger."
Yeah.
And not to mention earlier him yelling at Scar too.
It's just really we have so much we have so limited we pretty much have an active screen time with Mufasa, and we have like the whole experience of a parent's journey in there. It's great because we literally see the birth of Simba. So you very much kind of if we count like the big cloud kind of like vision, it's kind of like he sees him become a man. It's all there.
This movie is all of like again another representation of the hero's journey.
Yeah, only with lines this time.
Yep. And of course, again, like one of the most iconic scenes in all of cinema, of course. Remember who you are. You are my son and the one true king.
Also, we should talk about, he has a very tragic demise. It's another iconic moment of cinema.
Yeah, I know, but I was just you mentioned the cloud, so I just wanted to bring that up.
Yep. So, just the fact that he saves his son in doing so, I love in his death, like not just like the whole like no, not just literally like the oh my god, it's so tragic, but just the fact that his moments like Scar, help me up, the whole it's this sobering lesson in good and evil in the pursuit of power, whereas like you want good people to be king, and Mufasa, well, you want good creatures to be king, and Mufasa was a good creature.
It's a, and he's like, Scar, brother, help me, and long live the king.
Yeah.
Like again, like one of the few Disney villains to actually achieve his goal.
Yeah. So
And he killed James Earl Jones.
now on a lighter note,
Yeah.
The same year we get Naked Gun 33 and a third. And again, we lost another great this year. We lost Phil Donahue, and when Phil Donahue passed, I was thinking about this moment of
he looks like Phil Donahue.
throwing up in a tuba.
Yeah.
Looks like Phil Donahue throwing up in a tuba. It's the fact that James Earl Jones, we save him for like the big climax. He's about to announce Best Picture, and we have like a Phil Donahue lookalike thrown up in a tuba. Just the regalness of James Earl Jones delivering that line. And also Frank Drebin, when he comes to after that, he says, "Oh, loved you in Coneheads, you too." The fact that he thinks that James Earl Jones
wasn't
Coneheads, which I love that reference too because I love the movie Coneheads. No one else, like barely anyone does.
Who else would have been? Who would he recognize James Earl Jones as in Coneheads?
That's what I'm saying. There's no It's completely random. There's no one he would. There's no one unless he's thinking that he's Sinbad. There's no one he could have possibly been. The only black character in that movie is Sinbad,
and that's not even close to James.
No. In my head canon, he thinks that Dan Aykroyd he thinks that James Earl Jones is Dan Aykroyd. That's my head canon for that line.
I don't know if that's better or worse.
I think that's funnier.
It is funnier.
Anyway.
But the fact that James Earl Jones is like, you too. Oh God.
All right. So let's see. So a few nostalgic pulls.
Yep.
Yeah, we have, of course, a very memorably and very, Field of Dreams inspired his appearance on Recess.
Oh yeah.
So in the Christmas episode, yes, Mikey,
Santa does shave.
He plays essentially who we reveal to be Santa Claus. He plays the Terrence Mann character. Looks exactly like him. He's just kind of an old man on a porch. I would argue he's a fusion of the Field of Dreams character and a little bit of the Sandlot. Just like very much by his house.
It's like, but that's like a classic episode of Recess.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, yes, Mikey, Santa does shave.
Yeah. But again, also like this. Again, the fact is, we don't need to give James Earl Jones a lot of screen time to really make an impact, and even on like a kids show, he has like 2 scenes in that whole episode, and he basically exposits the moral, and then he puts a nice little button on it. And he again embodies Christmas spirit.
Yep, that's one mythological figure he did play, Santa Claus.
Yep.
And I mean, not to mention like all the characters, like all the times he guest starred in The Simpsons.
Oh yeah.
One of the funniest lines, like, "This is indeed a disturbing universe." Do you know the name of the character who said that?
No.
Maggie.
Oh.
Maggie, like it was like this weird time traveling thing, or going to different universe and things like that. And Maggie killed groundskeeper Will. He was like, "This is indeed a disturbing universe."
Okay.
And he's voiced quite a few characters. Guest starred a couple of times in The Simpsons as well.
Makes sense.
Like almost, I don't know if it's as many times as Albert Brooks, but
No, come on, can't be as many times as Albert Brooks.
I mean, that's probably a fair point, but he definitely did. He definitely did appear in there quite a few times.
Anyway,
I mean, Albert Brooks probably has him beat though.
yeah,
In terms of like the amount of appearances and the overall quality of the appearances too. I mean, he was Hank Scorpio for crying out loud.
and how do you beat Hank Scorpio?
You can't beat Hank Scorpio, Dragon. You just can't.
I love the trust fall gag. 3,
Oh.
2, 1 sec. Hello. Oh, my guy's on the floor. I'll call you back.
I said you just can't beat Hank Scorpio.
Yep. Well, I can't beat Albert Brooks either. I mean, dear God, the man's fantastic. But we're not here to talk about Albert Brooks.
Not yet, anyway.
However, coincidentally,
Yeah.
Albert Brooks in Curb Your Enthusiasm also had a living funeral.
Oh boy.
Yeah, only his his did not go as without a hitch as King Joffrey's did. Yeah, everyone kind of turned on Albert Brooks in like an angry mob kind of way.
Oh no.
Well, they didn't attack anything, but they were all very upset with him, and they left his funeral in a huff.
Oh boy.
Anyway,
Yeah.
yes, Slash Fred says defending your life. Yes, I love that movie. Not counting Nemo, favorite Albert Brooks movie.
I mean, Nemo counts.
I mean, come on. It's like I don't. If we count that, then we're looking over all the other great Albert Brooks movies that are full on Albert Brooks movies. Nemo is like a Pixar movie.
I know, but Albert Brooks basically voices the main character.
I know he makes that movie. Don't get me wrong. I know he makes that movie.
I mean, I still love the background story of like it's like of Andrew Stan's like he's the expert of having to tell a joke wrong.
Oh yeah. There's this one take, real quick, because we do really have to get back on point here.
Yeah,
Albert Brooks there's this really fun take because Albert Brooks would never do the same take twice because he always especially when he's doing like the joke runs. The scene there are two mollusks and the one mollusk walks up to the other. He didn't walk. When they did that, they cracked up and they couldn't use the take, and it was hysterical to him. Like basically the idea of Marlon's telling a joke, he gets so angry at himself like mid joke. Anyway, so do you remember our friend Martin?
No. Wait, is it that like edutainment thing?
Yes.
Yes, I do remember that actually.
There you go. Yeah, so that was we actually talked about this on the channel like way back when Tiki and I. But yeah, it was this very much kind of this. They showed it in school on for Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And yeah, I was blown away by it in school. It's the fact, oh my god, it's an educational thing, and it has time travel.
And apparently James Earl Jones too.
It's basically the idea, like, how can we make the MLK story animated and as cool as we possibly can without just being a really by the numbers kind of like and here's how he lived kind of thing. It's like we're gonna time travel, we're gonna throw Whoopi Goldberg in there, we have all sorts of great esteemed Ed Asner's in there, we're gonna throw all these great talents in, and we had James Earl Jones playing MLK Sr. Played Martin's dad.
Nice.
And it was great. Again, they had all the Angela. I believe Angela Bassett was in there. That everyone in this.
Wow, a lot of pedigrees in that one.
That's what I'm saying because it was important. Everyone kind of came together for it. I think Whoopi Goldberg might have produced it. I think I could be wrong.
Well, I said I haven't thought of that in years.
Oh yeah. I think it's all on YouTube if anyone wants to check it out. It's worth looking into.
Yep.
I love the pathos in that thing too, where it's like this. It opens on kind of like in the midst of the climax sort of thing, where you like that's what sold me is like when watching it for the first time in school. It was like this, wow, this is how you start. It might have been one of the first times I've seen that story structure wise, like going all the way back. Just the idea of like we're starting like the big dramatic, like kind of like here you take the time travel watch, Martin, and as I mentioned, what the heck is going on? Is that who I think it is? And then All right, so his work on CNN, he did a lot of narration work on documentaries and such, as well as being this is CNN. He's that guy,
Like the most trusted name in news.
and he's parodied himself quite a number of times. Like for example, movies both good and bad. Movie Click. He we had the audio commentary feature, which is James Earl Jones commentating on Adam Sandler's life.
That is funny.
Yeah.
Also good narration of narrator of a Scary Movie 3,
Yep.
in which he gets hit by a bus.
Yeah.
I know it was good, and it's probably not objectively a good movie, but I enjoy it.
Sure.
I mean, it's another Zucker movie, for crying out loud.
Well, I forget at that point the Zuckers were still around for that, or at least if they had broken apart by that time.
No, it was David Zucker.
Oh, okay, so David Zucker was. All right, there you go.
He didn't do the other with the Abrahams and the other Zucker, but he did technically. It was technically David Zucker, and I believe Craig Mazin who wrote it.
Okay.
Who's now famous for writing Chernobyl.
Huh.
Kind of a turnaround there, don't you think?
Yeah.
So go on.
All right. So one of the best examples of James Earl Jones ever playing himself was on The Big Bang Theory.
Yep.
There's an episode of The Big Bang Theory. It's about Comic-Con. Essentially, the idea being, and this is true to life, by the way, if you ever try getting tickets to the San Diego Comic-Con, it is impossibly difficult.
You have to buy them. You have to buy them like early.
Well, not just early. I mean, the split second they go on sale.
Yeah, like you have to have like your credit card information ready and everything.
Yeah. So essentially, there's an episode about that in which they try buying tickets to San Diego Comic Con, get sold out like within 2 seconds. And Sheldon, the Jim Parsons character, Sheldon, he basically says, "You know what? I'm going to go against the grain there. His friends are basically trying to buy scalped San Diego Comic Con tickets, and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start my own convention. I'm going to go. I'm going to get some awesome panelists. I'm going to get James Earl Jones, who dines at this I think it's like a sushi restaurant." And it's like, "Oh, Sheldon, you're crazy. He's going to call the cops or something on you. Don't do that." It says, "You watch me."
And then he meets James Earl Jones
all on his own. Like they don't like as low. It's this great like B plot to the whole episode where basically, or I guess the A plot of the episode where Sheldon he goes to meet James Earl Jones, and I love the subversion. It's such a wonderful subversion. It's basically every fan's dream come true, where it's like there's the initial fear of like you walk up to the guy and there's always the edge of don't meet your heroes, where sometimes these encounters could go really bad. Sometimes they could, very rarely will they go, never will they go this good, but they could go kind of this good. Or it's like, and just James Earl Jones is playing into and milking it so awesomely, saying, let me guess, you like Star Wars, don't you?
Sheldon just nods his head.
I've been in other movies, right? But you don't care about those.
Well, I like Star Wars too.
Yeah, you don't have to say to people like you, I like Star Wars too. And he invites them to sit down with him, and then it's like, this is incredible. And it's like, you know what? I got a residuals check from The Lion King, burned a hole in my pocket. Let's hang out. Which is this awesome, this dream come true, the fan experience come true. It's basically this whole episode's about it's a love letter to James Earl Jones and the relationship to fandom that we all wish was true sometimes.
Yeah, even doing Ding Dong Ditch to Carrie Fisher,
which is just priceless. And again, another like kind of a nice little tribute to like the folks of Star Wars who are no longer around.
It's like it's not funny anymore, James. Then why am I laughing?
Just that's what sells it. So they could have ended there as the fact that why am I laughing?
It just shows how jovial it all is.
Just James Earl Jones is like the merry prankster.
Like the funny thing is, I don't think he probably would do that, but the image of him doing it is hilarious.
I love it's like painted in the mind's eye too. We don't see it, but just imagining like this jovial big man just like toddling away, just like why am I laughing? He was eating ice cream, and basically we're checking off like the list. It's the Sheldon's doing the fan thing we all would do, where it's like we're telling him all the stuff we know about him. And it's like, oh, James, it's so nice hearing you tell your stories.
He's like, he's asking questions like, is that true? Yes, it's true. Is that true? Yes, it's true. I could hear you talk all night.
It's great.
And
I
then they
love
go on.
the Ferris wheel gag. Cracks me up. Is Sheldon with this giant teddy bear that James Earl Jones probably won for him.
I bought a Ferris wheel with James Earl Jones.
No, is it with Darth Vader? And he's a lot nicer than you think.
I am.
I am. Oh, that's great.
It is great, yeah.
Then they're doing karaoke and like redeeming like the part of the Lion King I don't like, singing "The Lion Sleeps Tonight."
Wait, you don't like The Lion Sleeps Tonight?
From the Lion in the movie itself, I don't like it.
Okay, that's weird, but let's move on.
Yeah,
and then they go to a sauna together.
yeah. The Sheldon at this point is the idea that the celebrity is having trouble letting go now, just like
he's like, and James Jones like, we could have ended this at karaoke.
Yep.
And then they're like, what are you trying to say at the strip club? How much do I pay to get them off of me?
So they know the other thing, like, oh yeah, well wait a minute, you want instead of you doing a convention, why don't you guys go to San Diego with me?
I mean, that would be amazing if a celebrity actually did that.
It's a shame they never followed up on that, by the way.
Yeah, maybe they did it off screen.
Yeah, well, that's also the impression of James Earl Jones. Then, like, afterwards, we go to Tijuana.
Well, let's just say him meeting James Earl Jones was better than him meeting Stan Lee.
Oh, absolutely. I love Stanley's robe in that episode. By the way, I love he's like the Fantastic Four robe.
Yep. It's kind of funny, like Stan was the grumpy old man in that episode. Well, mainly because they're just intruding on his personal life.
Still, the Sheldon showed up while James Earl Jones is like out to dinner.
Yeah. And let's just say, obviously James Earl Jones took it better than Stan did.
That is true. So he's just utterly delightful and just kind of a wonderful love letter to the man.
Yep.
So again, we've had him return in his last years. He's returned to a lot of the pretty much all the iconic roles. If you think about it, he coming to America being kind of the send off for him. Did Lion King 2019, which yes, it felt like the right thing to do to kind of like offer it to him, and look, the movie it's a flawed idea to remake that movie, but you gotta respect that they brought James Earl Jones back for it. Could they have directed him a little bit more, or like done something a little to maybe youthen the voice up in certain spots? I don't know. Maybe it's kind of an ethical thing. Like right now, it sounds like we may have done a lot of computer altering with Darth Vader's performance in Obi-Wan. It's unclear.
He also came back for Rogue One, as mentioned.
Well, that's the thing. So that was a big review. That was a big return for him, and most importantly, Rebels.
Oh yeah, especially when by that time he had been, voiced by a lot of other actors.
It's just the fact that you could have had essentially Darth Vader's a character where, in a sense, you could have anyone voice him to a degree. Because he wrote the book on this is how Darth Vader sounds, so anything else is just like, okay, we can replicate that sound. But it's the fact that he went out of his way. Matt
Stallone's like the biggest one for
Matt's
Chad Vader and all that.
Mm-hmm. So that's the thing that we have, like the Matt Stallones out there and all this, and it's a great recreation. It just shows the commitment to the character, and that so often in the tomes of history we have actors who have a complex relationship with their characters, for their typecast or eternally linked to these characters for better or for worse. James Earl Jones, he took it in stride. He loved that character, loved that universe. If he had an opportunity to come back as Vader, he did.
Kind of like Vincent Price in a way.
Yeah.
And of course, he did get a lot of great lines as Vader in his returning years. Like, it's like, then you will die braver than most.
Yeah.
And of course, like, careful not to choke on your aspirations, director.
Yeah, just even I love this. Now, to be fair, it's not really a heavy dialogue. It seems the fact that getting James Earl Jones back just kind of puts an energy into this. It's just we did with him coming back, we did give him like really prolific Vader moments. The two that come to mind: the ending of Rogue One, which Vader's like laying waste to everything, trying to get the coordinates from R2D2.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
yeah, the coordinates, for that eventually ends up in R2D2. And for me, Obi-Wan, I got my Vader bucket list checked off. I've always wanted to see Darth Vader, like essentially, like stop a ship from taking off and practically rip it open. And I got that. And James Earl Jones was kind of party of that in some way. So
Yep.
and Andrew Stanton, which makes it even better.
Yep. Yep. Definitely.
So yeah. What's also, I mean, to bring that up too, is the fact that we have, in a sense, I'm connecting some dots here, and I'm making that Nemo thing make sense, kids. Andrew Stanton, he works on Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, and Andrew Stanton voices Zurg, which is a parody of Darth Vader.
It's like I said, I've told this funny anecdote numerous times. Like, it's like when I first saw when I was old enough to remember Toy Story 2. And actually because when it first came out, I was barely old enough to remember what was going on in the movie in the first place. But when I was old enough, I had not seen Star Wars. So I didn't realize that was a parody of that scene. So I legitimately thought that Zurg was actually Buzz's father. And then I remember watching Star Command, like waiting for him to actually say, like, "Where's the reveal there's the father reveal here?" So yeah, so I was straight up watching that, waiting for him to say that "I am your father" thing. And then only years later did I realize that it was a reference to Star Wars. It's a funny anecdote I have when it comes to that. It's like, "No, Buzz, I am your father."
No.
I mean, it's funny now, but like I said, back then I was like, "Wait, what? Zurg is his father?" So yeah, funny how that works, huh?
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, Little Blue says, "I know you guys are Frasier fans, as I am too. James Earl Jones was in an episode of Frasier, which is true. Which, by the way, was James' first time doing comedy.
Is that really his first time doing comedy?
Well, I'm trying to think, timeline wise. I mean, it would have been the '90s. Well, you know what? I don't think so, because maybe on the small screens. On the big screen, you had Coming to America, which predates Frasier, because it's in the '80s,
Yeah,
'88, I think.
yeah, and his character's fairly comedic, if I remember correctly.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, King Jeff. I mean, there's comedy there. He's playing a little straight, mind you, but it's a funny role.
I mean, like the straightness of it is played for comedy, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, even so, I mean, then there's a question of if he showed up in Frasier, before '94 or not, because in '94 he had Naked Gun, so still.
And not to mention, technically, then he's not like one of the main characters in it or anything. Obviously, Dr. Strangelove.
No, that was yeah, but that wasn't really he didn't play comedy in that scene though.
I know, but I'm just saying, technically, that movie is considered a dark comedy.
Oh yeah. Anyway, let's not pick it apart. The fact is, James Earl Jones, in his many appearances, was on Frasier, which is it's a high mark of quality, I'd like to think.
And they got James Earl Jones,
Yeah.
and Kelsey Grammer in the same place.
The Kells.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Who also was in Toy Story 2.
Now, if only they had gotten James Earl Jones in Toy Story.
Well, again, we have Andrew Stan doing his impression of James Earl Jones.
But not the man himself.
Yeah. However, James Earl Jones is in Robots, technically.
Yep.
Well, they use the line.
Which is now owned by Disney.
It's all relative.
It all comes together. All right. Or as another D voice guy says, "Oh yeah, it's all coming together."
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, unfortunately, James Earl Jones never lent his voice to a Pixar film.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you voice Mufasa, I guess you can say oh yeah, I voiced Mufasa.
All right, you're gonna be kind of ramping down here, but Little Blue says, "Have you guys seen when James Earl Jones did the top 10 list of David Letterman? Basically, I think it was like things you wouldn't expect James Earl Jones to say. And one of them was, "What's up?"
I mean, there also that was his guest appearance on Two and a Half Men too.
Huh.
Another Chuck Lorre show.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, speaking of he voiced the gave the eulogy in Charlie's imaginary funeral.
Hmm.
It wasn't a talking about funerals and all that. All this, funnily enough, but it wasn't like one that was actually shown. It was like in Charlie's head. But he imagined James Earl Jones giving the eulogy.
It's kind of funny how many times we're linking James Earl Jones to comedic funerals.
Yeah, it's kind of morbid.
Yeah.
But I was just giving another example. You gave the other two.
I did.
So yeah. So I thought I'd at least contribute one.
There you go.
I didn't want to feel left out of that weird inclusion.
Okay.
So basically, it's another classic example of getting someone with this gravitas and voice to say ridiculous things.
Yep. Just a lot of love for James Earl Jones, and it's the fact that he gave voice to our generation and a few generations prior to that.
I mean, he's been doing this since the '60s, so yeah.
Yeah.
It's like since our parents and probably grandparents were due for
93 is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, we can't say it was unexpected. We don't know precisely the cause yet, I don't think, but it's just the fact that you know what I mean. He lived a life, man. He got out there. He got the voice, hugely iconic characters. I'm seeing fan art of Darth Vader and Mufasa looking at the sunset. It's kind of I feel like we're kind of linked cosmically, kind of a thing. Which is kind of beautiful. I mean, just look at the characters we have on here alone. There's more that didn't make the cut, folks, but just these six alone. I mean, they're all just kind of hugely part of hugely iconic moments in film.
Oh yeah.
And again, we're limiting him to film, really, just with that. I mean, again, the voice of CNN. I mean, just with the man, he kind of represented just kind of kind of exceptionalism in America to a degree. Between the theater and film and television, news, animation,
and also CNN.
Well, yeah, sure.
Exceptionalism and CNN.
I mean, come on, CNN does good documentary work.
I mean, okay, fair. Okay, I'll give you that.
What I mean, they do their whole the '90s in film or the '70s in television. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Anyway, but so yeah, I mean, I think just ultimately we're the man left an impact. The man is he is the deep booming voice. I mean, definitively. I mean, the way that Kevin Conroy was the Batman. That's how Batman sounds. This is what this is kind of the barometer. This is what the deep imposing kind of voice period sounds. I mean, in a weird biblical sense, if we need what the big deep booming almighty voice would sound like, I mean, it's James Earl Jones.
Oh yeah, I mean, you don't get much more iconic than him.
Yeah.
I mean, and as you said, Dragon, 93 is not an age to sneeze at. He left one heck of a legacy behind, many iconic characters on screen, on stage, on TV, and not to mention all of the stuff he did in his personal life too.
Yeah, I mean, we're all folks. I'm gonna say this in closing. We're gonna shout out the nice people, and we're gonna wrap this puppy up. I think we should all count our lucky stars that shy, stuttering kid. He found the courage to kind of let that beautiful voice out, and kept us entertained for years, and kind of reached. Basically was welcomed into our homes and our hearts for decades, and he's still there.
And God bless the teacher that gave him the courage to do so.
Yeah.
Just think, without that teacher, none of these characters would have been brought to life.
Like poetry, it rhymes, and like life, it's a circle.
Oh yeah.
All right, so we want to thank Slasher Fred and Little Blue and Sonia Pantoja for showing up. Thanks for kind of celebrating the man's life with us, and that'll about do it.
All right. Good night, folks. Until next time.